Meanwhile, Illinois lawmakers are speaking out about the possible government shutdown as the federal budget deadline gets closer. Illinois Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski is one of those members voting against the GOP-led bill. She says her goal is to keep the government open because a shutdown would be terrible for Illinois and the nation.
These are our neighbors. These are people that are going to be asked to go to work after Saturday, show up to work on Monday, and not be paid. And that includes military personnel. And I think that, working people deserve a lot better than that.
Budzinski blames House Speaker Kevin McCarthy for not bringing a bipartisan Senate bill to the floor for a vote. And we also received a statement from Illinois GOP Congresswoman Mary Miller. She also voted against today's failed House bill. She says, quote, "I voted no on the CR continuing resolution because I will not be a part of the process to kick government funding down the road until the holidays."